Hello and welcome to this edition of Consciousness Raising Online. I'm your host. They call me Old Soul. Now, this edition is kind of special because, one, it's being presented on Father's Day 2019, but it's also about something very unique. I want to talk about Allensworth. Now, Allensworth today, if you go out to California and you go to the San Joaquin Valley, you'll find the Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park. Now, it belongs to a town called Allensworth. And Allensworth was the only town in California that was founded, financed, built, and governed by Black people. And at one point, it didn't just survive, it thrived in its pinnacle in the early part of the 20th century. Let me just tell you a little bit about the town. Education was a cornerstone, of course, when it was a colony, and then it grew into a town. And music, too. Music was very important. Pianos and other instruments would be in everybody's house. Many of them came from the Singleton family. They ran a store and a post office. One of the family members was a band and orchestra conductor before they came out there. And one of the things about Allensworth was that it was founded on the idea that enslaved Africans were seeking a place where they would be free from the segregation and racism that they found everywhere else. And sadly, a couple of things happened that basically crippled the town. Because like I say, it was thriving. Let's see, one of the things I want to tell you about in terms of understanding how important it was. There were many Black towns, but this was a township in that it had its own voting district, its own justice of the peace. It was a complete township, and that's very unique. And because it was unique, there was a lot of hate being thrown at them, right? Well, a couple of things happened that really crippled the town. One was it had a railroad stop. The Santa Fe Railway it was a stopover. And then they moved the railway to a nearby town, a nearby white town. Now that was major, and you took the railroad stop away from them, right? And then their water supply was diverted. Yeah. Now, what was happening is that the wells began to run dry, and canal waters were provided to other predominantly white towns nearby, but not to Allensworth. And then the third major thing that happened was that Colonel Allensworth was killed. Now it's debated as to whether he was killed in an accident, but essentially he was he got off the um, what do you call it, streetcar in a nearby town, and he was crossing the street. He went to Monrovia, California, and he stepped off the streetcar, and supposedly some men knocked him down, and then he was run over by a motorcycle, and he was injured so badly he was taken to the hospital, and he died. Well, that really hurt the town because it was named after him. He founded it along with some other black men. Let me tell you a little bit about Allensworth. He was born uh, into slavery in Kentucky in 1842. Now remember, the Civil War didn't occur till 1860. What was it, 1862 or something? It was over in 1865. He was born in 1842. He escaped from the slave state during the Civil War. So he must have been what? 52, 62, yeah, he must have been around 20, 21. And became a Union soldier. Later became a Baptist minister and an educator. And he was appointed a chaplain in the United States Army. He was the first black person to reach the rank of lieutenant colonel. And he founded churches. And in 1908, he founded Allensworth. Now let's look at his age. He was born in 42, 52, 62, 72, 82, 92, 1902. That's 60. And he founded Allensworth in 1908. So he was 50, he was 66, is that right? 66. Okay. Now, let me show you how Alan Allensworth looked. Here's Alan Allensworth. Okay. He had done a lot by the time he founded the town. Now, here's the town. Here's where it is on the map. You see where it says early marked here, right next to the red arrow, and the other one called Alpaw. See, those were the towns, the white towns nearby that the state helped to exist. Okay. Now, this is it more. Let's see if we can project it up. Yeah. See Fresno up here to the little map in the corner on the left shows you where Fresno is. And as you come down to the bottom, you'll see Bakersfield. So it was in a good spot. Okay. Now this is how it looks as a state park. I'll tell you how it became a state park in a minute. But yeah, Allensworth Let's see. I'll tell you some more about what they had there because it was a heck of a town. Um, Among the social and educational organizations that flourished during this golden age, they had the Campfire Girls, the Owl Club, the Girls Glee Club, and the Children's Savings Association. That was for the town's younger residents. The adults had the Sewing Circle, the Whist Club, like Bid Whist, the Debating Society, and the Theater Club. Colonel Allensworth called it, uh, he wanted it to become known as the Tuskegee of the West. Okay. And interestingly enough, all the streets in the town were named after either notable black people or white abolitionists. So the streets were named like Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Paul Laurence Dunbar, and even after Harriet Beecher Stowe, the abolitionist and author of Uncle Tom's Cabin. So, like I say, when they moved the railroad, that was dirty. And then he was killed in September of 1914. And even then, the town refused to die. What really hurt them bad was when they contaminated the water supply and then wouldn't hook them up to the canal water like they did the others. So the town refused to die, and then some of the residents fought hard to get it, the state park, to get it part of it as this, what was the downtown area of the town. That's now the Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park. And every year they have special events at the park to preserve the history of the town and the legacy. Now, outside of the park, some of the houses are still inhabited. There's still residents there. And again, it's unique because it was founded, financed, and governed by black people. See, in most other cases, you had some black towns that might have sprung up, but they didn't have their own governments. They were usually extensions of the white folks' governments. Now, why is that important for us to understand today? One of the reasons is this. Why don't you look at this for a second? Um, this is like the park, and look at the land. Okay, letting that soak in, right? All right, now look at this. That's 40 acres. That's roughly 40 acres. They had built up a town. It built up a town that in 1914 it was estimated as being over 900 acres. Okay, the park today is roughly maybe 40 acres. But think about it. If we had our 40 acres and we put them together, whoa, look at what we'd have. We'd have land. And part of what the, the people of Allensworth were doing, and they said it, they wanted the world to see that black people were fully capable of being self-sufficient, self-governing, and that we could run our own world. And they proved it. They proved it. So one of the things why it's so important for us with reparations is that, yeah, it should include some land. If we just got the 40 acres apiece, we'd have a bunch of land. We have the talent to build on that land and to develop it, you know, that's something to think about. And as we deal with Father's Day today here, one of the reasons I wanted to do this particular presentation is so we don't forget that, yes, it takes both mothers and fathers, but it's important that we make sure we understand that we have always, uh, the fathers have always built for the children and their children's children. So if you ever get out to California, you may want to go by and visit uh, Allensworth. And here I want you to watch this short video.
The amenities give you a whole totally different meaning of who these people were than actually just coming out and seeing what I call a weed patch. And that's what, when you're driving through, that's what you see is a weed patch until you get to history and know what this really stands for. When Allensworth was first founded, the founding fathers' reason for this was to make this the Tuskegee of the West, the site of the first black college on the West Coast. This school was used for dual purposes. I mean, they would have their meetings. They would have their meetings here and church here, and actually they put on a lot of the performances here. You have the stage, and also you have a classroom setting. The town was founded in 1908, and by 1914, the colonel was killed. And then during the 1920s, by the 1920s, 30s, the town had became pretty much home for migrant farm workers. This is Colonel Allensworth's home. This is the colonel's house. Yeah, him and Mrs. Allensworth.
I really wanted my kids to understand their own history because it's not really taught in school. You know, they kind of hit and miss. But, you know, we could talk and say, you know, this is why these places existed and this is what happened after slavery and the Civil War, and to kind of fill in the blanks. This was like really in the middle of nowhere, you know, and some of the women would look out of the window and think, where have I come? What have I done? Where is this place, you know? The purpose was to prove to the world as black folk they could live and survive together socially, economically, and intellectually. Allensworth had its own school district, it had its own judicial district, it had its own voting district, it had its own water district. It was a town that was founded and funded by blacks.
Appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and please feel free to share it and pass it on. And I'm going to close out today. And as always, I say no justice, no peace, no love. KNOW.